Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Crisis Point podcast. My name's Ryan. Today, I'm here with my co host, Shane,
Hello.
and our special guest co host, Ben.
Hello.
So, you guys will have to stick with us through this episode. Ben's voice is what happened to your voice exactly, Ben?
Look, I can tell you exactly what happened. I went to Rochester and I was ready to just win it all. And then I play Shane and he kicks my butt so bad I forgot how to talk for a couple days.
Yeah.
Just messed up my voice.
Yeah, Shane has that effect on people. So, if you're not aware, this past Saturday, I ran a Marvel Crisis Protocol tournament here at in Rochester at Millennium Games. We had 12 players show up, including Shane and Ben. So, thank you everybody for coming out and making it such a fun event. I had a fun time running it, and it looked like everybody had a fun time playing in it. So that was really cool.
I had fun.
I would
Yeah,
hope so because you won the whole thing.
you know,
I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's part of why I had fun. But I think I would have fun even if I didn't win the whole thing, which is a testament to the event and so on, of course.
I had fun and I got my butt whooped and lost my voice. So that's you have a good event when you don't you walk away and you can't talk right. So it's good. It's good times.
All right. So, I guess we can go ahead and get started in this episode. We're going to be talking about a few things. Of course, we're going to be doing Splash Mountain. Can't tell you exactly what we're going to be talking about there, but they have dropped the new card for Logan, so we're going to be taking a look at that. And then later on in this episode, um, Shane and Ben are going to be taking us through their games at the tournament from this past Saturday, and then we're going to be basically talking about the final top table match, which was between the two of them. So that'll be interesting. Uh, Guys, I swore this tournament was not rigged. I know the three people on this podcast, one of them hosted the tournament and TO'd, and then two others made it to the final table. This was not
It's an
rigged.
inside job.
This was not
Inside joke.
this is not an inside job. Put your pitchforks and torches away, please. All
I
right.
was just it's all that hard work. Oh, it's the Splash Mountain. That's
It
what it
is.
was.
It is. It is
Yeah.
the hard work, it's the determination, it's the talent. All right. So let's get started here with everybody's favorite Splash Mountain. You guys ready to dive in?
Oh, I'm so ready to dive
right.
in. I'm always ready.
All right. Here we go.
Oh, I'm so excited.
The anticipation. It's the
What do we got, Ryan? What's it coming to?
Oh, we got Drax.
Oh,
hex.
interesting, Drax. I'm happy that we're repeatedly getting characters that nobody splashes anywhere. It makes this is what Splash Mountain is all about.
It really is. Yeah. Not it first. I got to think about it.
I mean, I also kind of need to think about it because I'm going to be honest. I've never played with Drax. I've played against Drax maybe once or twice. He's not a character that sees a ton of play. He is, of course, affiliated only with Guardians of the Galaxy. So on the bright side, there are a lot of places where you can splash him because he's only in one affiliation. So that's pretty. That's cool. Um, I'll take the reins here a little, and I'll just talk about what he does, and I'll use that as filler time for me to think about where I would splash him.
Sure.
So, for those of you unaware, Drax the Destroyer, he's got 6 health. He's a 3 threat. Well, 6 health on his healthy side, 6 health on his injured side, so 12 total. He's a medium mover. I believe he's on a short or a small base as well. He's size 2. He's got 3/3/2 defense. His builder is range 2, 5 dice. And he gets rerolls if the target has bleed, which is cool. And he also gives a bleed on a wild. He's got a range 2 headbutt that costs 2 power with 4 dice. It's got a wild stun and a size 3 automatic push away. And he's got the Titan Killer, which is 3 power, range 2 as well. All of his attacks range 2. Um, you add 1 die to the attack roll for every damage he has, and it's a base 3. So this could potentially be up to an 8 dice attack. You can't attack when you're dazed, so I go conventionally speaking that I can think of. Um, and it has a wild throw, size 4 or less OA, which is pretty cool. He has a size 3 terrain slash character throw um, within range 2, and he throws it short, custom 3 power. And then he's got the vengeance tokens, which are pretty cool. You place a vengeance token on somebody when he gets hurt, and then um, basically whenever you attack somebody with a vengeance token, he rolls 3 additional attack dice. So he rolls a lot of dice. He's and he has damage reduction, which I should also clarify. So now that I've read the entire card, and I'm fairly certain that there is nothing different on the backside at all. Have I given you enough time, Ben, to come up with something?
Yeah, I got one. Okay.
Wonderful. Okay.
That's called, by the way, this is called teamwork, right?
Yes.
It's called teamwork. I'm gonna say Baron Strucker Hydra.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna say Baron Strucker Hydra, mainly for the reason of, if you look at his attacks, he has a lot of ways to give out conditions, right? So he's got he's got a wild bleed on his builder and a wild stun on his headbutt. I really think that he's gonna be one of those characters that can, you know, potentially dish it out if he's putting out those conditions, and he's going to be able to build a little bit more toward that Titan Killer while still being able to potentially heal. One of the things that Hydra is kind of hurting with right now is they don't have a lot of throws, so he can kind of give that to the team, which is nice. And having his big spender be only 3 cost isn't too terrible. I think the big key with Drax in any affiliation that you run him is he's going to be better on one of the wings. He's going to be on one of the flanks, soloing someone, so you can kind of guarantee that people have to deal with him. They have to hit him so that he's getting those vengeance tokens. But yeah, I'm saying Baron Strucker Hydra.
Okay. I like it. I'm a fan of it. I've come up with one. I don't know how good it is, but I like your idea. I think Drax would be kind of interesting as a splash in Midnight Suns. Um, one thing I mentioned is that he has a lot of range too, and he's a small base medium mover, so he's not the fastest guy in town, so to speak. But with all those range 2 attacks, I think having that little extra bump is going to be really good for his mobility, because I think his action economy is something that probably suffers a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't have a ton of things really to spend power on. He's got a throw, so there's that. But outside of that, I mean, his attacks aren't super expensive, and he's like hitting pretty hard without even using his spenders, just because of the vengeance tokens a lot of the time, and with his regular builder, potentially getting 8 dice attacks with rerolls. And the other thing I really like is that Midnight Suns are a team that always has Blade on the board. Now, I'm not suggesting that you should build your Midnight Suns teams around Blade, because not he's kind of the worst part about Midnight Suns. But the reality is he's the one main part of Midnight Suns that's always there, because he's the leader. He's the only leader. And Blade throws out a lot of bleed. And there's a few other people on Midnight Suns that are out bleed too, if I'm not mistaken. And Drax is actively getting multiple rerolls from attacking characters that have bleed. So there's a little bit of inter character synergy there between him and some of the core pieces. I think the bump helps his action economy a ton. And I mean, beyond that, that's kind of all I got. So that's my thought for Draxy here.
I'm pretty sure when Blade was spoiled, when he first came out, and people saw his vampiric immortality thing, that Drax was on that list of the all bleed list. So it was just
Oh, is he?
Yeah, it was just Blade and a couple Midnight Suns, and then everybody has Bleed. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I can see it. He gives bleed too, so he's helping out Blade.
yeah, yeah.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
What do you got, Ryan?
So I'm actually thinking, I look at Drax. He's got the 6 stamina. He's only at threat level 3. So, and like with all his abilities and everything, this guy wants to do one thing and one thing only, and that's to get in and do damage to the enemy, and then potentially do some displacement with his Titan Killer and his the Destroyer abilities. I really do love the Driven by Vengeance superpower, and then the I can take it for the damage reduction, I think is really cool. So with all that put together, I think splashing him into Thanos Black Order might be interesting. Simply for Thanos' leadership of when an enemy character is KO'd, character's controlling player gains 1 VP. Drax just wants to kill everything he comes into contact with, so I think, that synergizes pretty well with Thanos' leadership.
I like it. Thematically, it is hard to imagine because I'm pretty sure Drax doesn't he hate Thanos?
I literally think his whole character arc is trying to kill Thanos. Yeah,
Yeah.
Thanos and Ronin. Yeah,
it's a
does not
cursed
like him.
matchup for sure,
Yeah.
or a
Yeah.
cursed team up, I should say. But
Yeah. And but no, I can see it for sure. I
yeah,
mean, he's just a killer, right? He
Infinity
kills.
Gems do crazy things sometimes.
Yeah, he definitely has the potential to be a pretty brutal attrition piece that can survive a little bit longer than your average 3 threat
Mm-hmm.
and offer a little bit of displacement along the way. So
Yeah,
um
I love it. I love it.
All right.
so I guess that wraps up Splash Mountain then. That was clean.
Yeah,
There's no
solid,
ramble.
solid.
We were in and we were out. It was a solid Splash Mountain there.
Smooth operators.
All right. So, do we want to take a look at Logan now?
Do I ever?
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, sure. So, I got his card up here. So, Logan, the Wolverine. He's got 4 physical, 4 energy, and 2 mystic, 6 stamina. Uh, threat level 4, size 2. Move medium. He's got the X slash ability, range 3, strength 5. After this attack is resolved, he gains power equal to damage dealt. After the attack is resolved, place this character within 1 inch, or excuse me, range 1 of the target character. That's really cool. And Wild Pierce. So that's nice. He's got Tornado Claw, which is a beam 3, strength 7, power 4. After all attacks generated by this attack have been resolved, place this character within 1 of the last character targeted by this attack. I'm liking that. And he's got a Wild Pierce and Wild Bleed. He's got What I Do Isn't Very Nice for 3 power. This is an action. Character immediately makes an X slash attack action, and then after the attack is resolved, if the target character is size 3 or less, this character may throw the target character S. This superpower may only be used once per turn. Adamantium Skeleton, when determining whether this character can be thrown or pushed by an effect or special rule, or when it is colliding with another character or terrain feature, the character counts as size 3. Get Out of My Head, the first time this character is damaged by an enemy mystic attack each turn after the attack is resolved, other allied characters within range 3 of this character suffer 1 damage. And characters that suffer damage this way gain 1 power. Then he's got On the Hunt. When this character makes an attack, if there are no allied characters within range 3 of it, this character may reroll up to 2 of its attack dice. That's pretty interesting. And then he's got Healing Factor 2 and Immunity Stun. So, what do you guys think?
Ben, you want to go first?
Yeah. I really like Logan for a couple specific things. I think he's going to be really one of those amazing characters on the wings. You want Logan to get matched up, in a 1v1 match where he can really take advantage of the on the hunt.
Yeah.
Rolling 5 dice, re-rolling 2 with healing factor is going to be pretty good. You're going to get some consistency. There's going to be a wild pierce. It's pretty good. I think people are going to underestimate how fast he can actually be with all of his placements that he can do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
People are going to look, oh, he's just a medium mover on a small base. But range 3 place within 1 can get you into some really sneaky
Yeah,
position.
that's so good. It
And
Yeah.
I,
it
to
that
piggyback off that a little bit, sorry to interrupt,
yeah.
but what's interesting is if you do what I do isn't very nice, you can throw them and then place. So you can actually get crazy movement out of that alone.
Oh,
It,
okay.
it can get kind of bonkers.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
And
that placement, it reminds me of like the piling and consolidating stuff that you can do in like Kill Team and 40K.
yeah, yeah. And again, same thing with his beam. Tornado Call, beam 3. And let's not snuff at the quick math is what, 21 dice. If you're hitting 3 people.
Nice.
Um, that's nothing to snuff at with a wild pierce. He's going to be able to put out some damage, more damage than Wolverine is going to be put. I do think some people are going to be disappointed. You can't fastball special this guy. I know that made me really sad because he's not technically the Wolverine. He's Logan the Wolverine. So you can't fastball special him, which kind of stinks. And I really think that he's going to suffer in X-Men. The Get Out of My Head, which is, and I need to say this, one of my favorite superpowers. I love Get Out of My Head because it is so on par for Logan's story at this point in the comics.
Mhm.
Man, this is just like perfect. And it stinks because it makes him almost unusable in Uncanny, or at least Storm's X-Men. Because they want to be, bouncing off of each other and doing stuff like that. And
Mm-hmm.
he's not going to fit that mold. Because Shane and I talked about this. Mysterio's just going to laugh at Logan
Oh
and
yeah.
and just like recreate one of the Apocalypse series where basically Mysterio tricks Wolverine into killing everybody.
Yeah.
So
Like personal favorite.
personal favorite. And with
Uh,
that, I'll pass it over.
yeah. So to elaborate on what I'm talking about. So first of all, like here's picturing Mysterio against Logan. Logan's got 2 Mystic Defense. So Mysterio can hit him with his hypnosis gas, which is probably going to do damage because again, 2 Mystic Defense, and then he can move him after the attack is resolved, and then get out of my head trigger. So you can hit Logan, move him into his team, and then have Logan hurt multiple people on his own team. And you're also like keeping him near his friends if you want to prevent the on the hunt. So I mean, in general, though, um, I think you're totally spot on, Ben, about the theme here of this card. It really nails Wolverine. I feel as a character, at least the early like pre X-Men or on his own like lone guy Wolverine. I think as far as gameplay goes, we talked about the mobility, which I think is going to be massive on this character. Um, as a 4 threat, he's undeniably there to be an attrition piece, which at the moment in the meta, there aren't a lot. I feel like there's not a lot of like pure attrition 4 threats that are getting splashed a lot. Funny enough, the Sabretooth is one of the ones I've been seeing a lot lately.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And Sabretooth, kind of like this Logan, has a lot of mobility. He's a long mover, he's really fast, he can get where he wants to be, he's got aggressive. Um, and kind of like Sabretooth of old, but we haven't seen the new one. Logan he can get around the board really quickly, and he's his main utility is rolling a ton of dice. Unlike Sabretooth, Wolverine has pretty much guaranteed displacement if he's using what I do isn't very nice, which is pretty cool. Um, he he's perfect to just run up a flank on his own and be a menace.
Yeah.
Um, to keep him away from his team, which you don't always want to do that, but Logan wants to do that. So I mean, he's going to be a menace on things like Terrigen or intrusions, I think. But I mean, don't underestimate how difficult it is on some setups though to stay out of range 3 of everybody on your own team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Mhm.
going to be moments where you kind of have to move somebody over there. Logan's not going to like it, but you're going to have to go help him out at some point. So I don't know. I mean, we obviously don't have the full picture. We don't have any tactic cards. We don't know what the Weapon X affiliation looks like. But I think as a pure attrition 4 threat, he's really interesting. His mobility really piques my attention, and I'm curious what people do with him. Like, I can see him maybe getting used in like a Daredevil syndicate or something, just to like stack
Oh yeah.
reroll, like a Guardians of the Galaxy maybe.
Hmm.
Kind of already play that play style a little bit, um, and to just stack rerolls on him and kind of play into his attrition game plan. But yeah, no, I mean, I like Logan. My first impression was that I didn't like him, but the more I look at the card, the more I kind of see what it is that he's good at. And obviously, healing factor 2 is just amazing. And he's going to be using exceptional healing pretty frequently, I would imagine, if not every game. So yeah, I like Logan. I think he looks good. He
I
looks
like him
fun for
too.
sure.
Yeah.
Hear me out. Sports. I like him in Web Warriors.
Because the movement.
The movement shenanigans. They want to spread out. They don't need to be near each other a whole bunch,
Yeah.
right? And he can move around the board. I uh, and imagine his defensive reroll is just going to make him even more tanky. I like him in Web Warriors. I think that's
Yeah. No, I like it because you're also in it. They play on D shapes, and I think this Logan's going to love D shapes
oh
because
yeah, oh yeah.
you can spread out, right? You can send Logan on his own little adventure far
Hmm.
away from everybody pretty consistently. Like there's more places for him to go that are relevant that could be further away from the rest of your team. So, and like you said, the mobility is just off the charts. So he kind of fits right in there. And they don't really have like a fast attrition piece at all on that team. I mean, there's Venom, who is, I'm not going to call him a pure attrition piece, but he's a great attrition. He's a good attrition piece, but
Hmm.
with a ton of excellent control as well. Um, Wolverine could be a cool Web Warrior splash. I kind of like it.
Yeah. He's to make another, I guess, like 40K comparison, he's kind of reminding me of what's called a Slaplin. For those who don't know, it's just a Space Marine chaplain who is buffed up to do basically an insane amount of damage, and just go off on their own and delete things. And that's the vibe I'm picking up from Logan here. So I think he's pretty cool.
For sure.
Fun fact: he can use the Wolverines card though, because it's just his alter ego.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's the one with X-23, right?
yeah.
So what card
I
is that for those who don't know?
It's here. Let me pull it up. Um, it's nothing to like super build around, but
It's a nice
'cause
trick.
it's a nice like goofy trick. So the Wolverines is both Logan and Laura have to spend 3 power, and while they're within 2 of each other, they can't be pushed or thrown by enemy effects. They re-roll any number of attack dice,
Ooh.
and after an attack targeting either of them is resolved, the attacker takes 1 damage if they don't daze or KO them.
Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
So you
Yeah.
lose the on the hunt, but you gain infinite rerolls, or not
Yeah.
infinite, but
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
yeah,
A
Full.
better version of it.
Full.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, full rerolls. Yeah.
Pretty good. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and you can imagine Laura's probably going to be Weapon X affiliated, so
Hmm.
Oh yeah,
we
definitely.
know at least one card that works with this affiliation.
Uh-huh. Very
You
cool.
You guys heard it here first.
All right, so I guess now we can go ahead and talk about your guys' tournament run. Ben, I actually want to kind of start with you because you ran Hydra at this tournament. So do you want to talk about like your list a little bit?
You want to start with me because I didn't win, right? Is that what it is, Ryan? No, it's okay.
No, because the real reason is Shane ran Spider Foes, and that's nothing new.
That is also true.
That's
That's
true.
also true. Yeah, so I had been deciding back and forth between Brotherhood and Hydra, and I wanted to mix it up because Shane and I are going to Boston uh, in a month, and I'm gonna be running Brotherhood there. So I ran Hydra. I ran Big Daddy Red Skull, Master of Hydra, Baron Strucker, Zola, Baron Zemo, which is your base 14 that this list was going to take every single round. I was going to take all those guys. And then I was running Taskmaster, Bob, Agent of Hydra, Steve Rogers, Captain America, which is Bully Steve. I can't do Shane, do the MODOK voice for me. I can't do the MODOK voice.
The MODOK?
MODOK.
MODOK,
There it
man.
is. Yeah, MODOK. Yeah, MODOK, Loki, and Dr. Voodoo. I was taking a fair amount of the Hydra cards. Inevitable Betrayal, Occult Research, Scientific Method, High Council, World Domination. Left out a couple of the other ones that didn't really fit the mold. And my restricteds were Patch Up and Sacrifice. And then I ran my Anti-Malekith card, Recalibration Matrix, then Aim Lackeys, and Fallback. There's just some other ones to kind of fill in some roster spots. My Crisis, I took Secures of Infinity Formula, Terrigen, and Demons. And then my Extracts were Hammers, Struggle for the Cube, and the Montesi Formula. My basic strategy for this game was to threaten the High Council every single game. I took the High Council in all of my games. And for those who are unaware, the Hydra High Council is a tactic card that's basically a paragraph long. So the short version of it is if I do a couple of things with Red Skull, Zola, Zemo, and Strucker, I can summon in another character from four threat or less, and that's pretty big when you can basically cheat and bring another person to the game. And I was showing Shane some of our practice games. It's not very hard to do. You can get it pretty reliably by turn 2 if people aren't paying attention. I think in a couple of our games, Shane, right, I got it off turn 2, turn 3, where it's still early enough to make a difference in the game. And usually at that point, the game is over. And the other thought process was that if I couldn't get it off, people have to play around it. You have to maybe put yourself in a bad position, knowing that if you're not playing around this, I can drop it and I get another character in the middle of the game, which is pretty good. Occult Research, which is another great one. Red Skull spends all of his power, 10 power, and he gets 3 actions for the rest of the game, and staggers everybody around him, including himself. So that was really the thought process behind the whole list. I took Loki and Voodoo. Voodoo is my, oh crap, I'm losing the game. If I need to summon in somebody, I summon in Voodoo. Shane and I did a practice game on Friday and did that, where I was able to bring in Voodoo, and it changed, it went from I definitely lose this game to, well, if Shane doesn't spike a freaking roll with Mysterio, I probably win that game. So it was a really great list. I think the strategy behind it was pretty strong, and I did pretty well in my games.
Yeah, I would testify to the High Council. I think a lot of the conversation around it when it came out was, "Oh, this is like a funny, goofy card," but it's like super hard to get off. I thought that, but having seen you do it so many times now against so many people, myself included. It is not that hard to get off for how, not that it's easy to get off, because it
Mhm.
is like, it is a little difficult to get off, but for how much you get if you get it off, and you typically do it early,
Yeah.
because I've seen some people say, "Oh, well, by the time you get all these things, it's late in the game." I think that's actually very rare, because late in the game, there's one of them might be dead, one of them might be days by the time you get to maybe use it.
Mhm.
Um, it's pretty difficult to do it. I think it's harder to do it in like round 4 or 5 than it is to do it on round 2 when you've got everything set up.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. I think it's a better card than people give it credit for. It's not just pure fluff, in my opinion. I think there is actual like legs to that strategy. And I mean, you were doing it to really good effect on Saturday. So
Yeah. Like I said, I probably before Saturday had played this list maybe 3 4 times, and got it off all but once. Um, so it was, in each one of those games, you know, again, when you add in another four threat character, it's very good. It's very good. So I don't know if you want me to talk about our first games, but that's basically the thought process around the list. Unless you want Shane to talk about his, you know, prep shenanigans.
Sure. So, I mean, we can stick with you, Ben, just because your list is going to be fresh in our listeners' minds. So, I guess take us through like your first two games, really, and how this list played out for you.
Yeah. So I played my first round. I played against a great guy named John, who was part of the Millennium League. Um, Relatively, I think, a newer player, but great guy. Been playing for I think a couple months. I think is what he said. His first time against Hydra, and so we spent some time before the game talking about a little bit of some shenanigans. Uh, and he brought Defenders with Doctor Strange, and that was a big indication. What's one really cool thing about this Hydra list is you don't declare your leader until after all of your models are deployed. And I have two leaders, so depending on really the matchup, where people are going, and the crisis selections, I can really alternate between Red Skull and Baron Strucker, as my two leaders. And by John's list, I really knew that he was going to put out a lot of conditions that I don't want. So I decided to play Baron Strucker as my leader for that game, um, wherein Baron Strucker's leadership basically says if I have a condition on me, if I deal a damage to you, I give you that condition back. So if you don't have it already, and at once per turn, if I give a condition out to somebody, that character heals one. So it makes your guys a lot more tanky, and it's really frustrating for your opponent. Where John was hexing me a whole lot that game, and I was able to kind of boing flip the hexes back to him. We played cubes and demons downtown, which again was really to my advantage because there was going to be a lot of conditions. Cubes was gonna speed up the game. We both kind of knew that the game was not going to last that long, just because all the damage that the cubes were putting out, the incinerates that were going, and the hexes that were going to be around. We knew that it was going to be lots of swings, and I was able to bring out the Hydra High Council on turn 3. Was able to bring out Bully Steve, uh, and our Hydra Steve. So it was
So, you keep calling him Bully Steve. Exactly why is he called Bully Steve?
Yeah, Bully Steve. So Steve, the Captain America, which is the second version of Steve Rogers, is lovingly referred to as Bully Steve, because this Steve is a lot more punchy. Captain America Steve Rogers, which is the corset guy, has bodyguard, is very tanky, and really wants to protect people. Steve Rogers, Captain America, the newest version of him, wants to put out lots of damage. So he wants to be punching people. And one of the favorite things that he has is an ability called I've knocked out tyrants over 200 times, and then his spender is I don't like bullies. So people just lovingly called him Bully Steve, because he's just punching people. He's bullying the other bullies, and so
He is a bully. That's
he
true.
he is a bully. He's got a flurry on his attack on his builder, which Shane has yet to get off.
Not one time.
But that's okay. But so that's why I like to call him Bully Steve, just because he just likes to beat up people, and he beat up people in that game. John played very well. Um, he had a huge big attack that was going to go on my Armin Zola. It was Dragon Fang with Warrior of Legend. He had put all of this, all or nothing into this attack. Should kill Armin Zola, and he rolls blanks and skulls on 7 dice. And it's like, it hurts. It hurts the soul. But John was a great opponent. I ended up winning 18-5 that game. It was pretty fast. My second opponent was Felix Reyes. He's another great guy. He was playing Midnight Suns. And I pulled Demons Downtown again with Scrolls. We both kind of heavy side when Scrolls came out, because Scrolls are kind of annoying. For those who are unfamiliar, Scrolls basically you have to roll 2 dice, and if you find a crit, or if you get a crit, you find the scroll. It took us 10 attempts to find that stupid scroll. But this game, I took Red Skull as my leader to gain more power, because I knew that he really wasn't going to be putting out a lot of conditions. He was immune to several of the conditions I could put out, so Baron Strucker really wasn't going to help me there. And he played very well against the High Council. And this was kind of part of that strategy where he saw the card. This was his first time playing against Hydra. He saw the card. He goes, "Wow, that's really strong if you can get that off." So he did his very best to play around it. And unfortunately for him, that kind of feeds into the strength of this list, where I was able to kind of position and do things really well while he was not in the best position, because he was afraid of the High Council. And I also brought MODOK in that game, and MODOK just tore up poor Blade and a couple other people. And the funniest part was Zemo ends up finding the scroll and gets chased down by Bullseye, and they're just having this running match of Zemo, who's alive on 1 health for basically 3 rounds, trying to not get shot by Bullseye, who can just auto do 1 damage. So it was pretty funny. I ended up winning 16-7 that game. Felix was a great guy, and we had a great time. There was a lot of laughing in that game, and I really appreciated playing against Felix. And then round 3, I played against the villain that's known as Shane.
So speaking of Shane, I guess we can kind of talk about your list now, Shane, and your matchups.
I guess if we have to.
All right, guys, if you guys want to take a quick snooze, you can you do that.
No. So I, of course, naturally, I took Spider Foes, because I am a meta chaser who only takes the S tier teams.
Yeah.
So I decided to chase greatness on this day, and I took Spider Foes. So my list here was Green Goblin, Amazing Spider-Man, Mysterio, Cassandra Nova, of course, Lizard, Venom, Carnage, Black Widow, Kraven the Hunter, and Doc Ock. My tactic cards were Mental Domination, Sinister Traps, Brace for Impact and Sacrifice, no matter the cost, Carnage Rules, Lethal Protector, Grand Illusion, Fallback, and Recalibration Matrix. My secures were Infinity Formula, Mutant Madmen, and Intrusions. And my extracts were Cubes, Spider Infected, and Scrawl, because I didn't print out extracts in time, and not a single box that I've bought so far has an extract in it, so I'm stuck with the core box extract.
Pain.
So fortunately I never had to play on Scrawl. But Yeah, didn't love that. So,
AMG, if you're
yeah,
listening, please come out with a box with like
please.
just extracts and secures, please.
Yeah, I'll buy it twice.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the list. It was pretty. I think I had every affiliated foe except Kingpin, and then basically ASM. The idea being, if I ran against a Malekith, I was going to take ASM, Amazing Spider-Man, to grab the middle extract if there was one, and kind of turtle back. Spider foes are really good at turtling, especially if you're playing like a trap build. Um, not that it's easy to get ASM and the trap build fully online on the same list. You usually need to be playing at a higher threat level to make that work. But either way, that was the idea of just playing a fast scoring game against Malekith if possible. Um, the other splashes were Widow. I do want to kind of do a Ben. You and I had a brief conversation about Widow the other day,
Mhm.
and I've just been like really high on her lately. And I think like I would say to anybody that is getting into MCP, if you are playing an affiliation that doesn't have an affiliated two threat, I would not go out of your way to get a two threat splash from like another box. Um, because Black Widow, you probably own her because she's in the core box, and she is very, very good. The things she's able to do, she's not going to hit particularly hard. She's usually not going to like spike big and win you a game off of some crazy roll. But what she is going to do is move really fast, play the objective game really well, um, be like weirdly hard to kill because of just between stealth and
Yeah.
martial art. Um, I think Widow is, you know, personally, I'm kind of moving away from the bullseyes and the rockets, and I think I might start running Widow more often as my two threat splash until foes get an affiliated two threat. I just think she's a really really strong character, um, and I don't see her splash like she gets played a lot because Avengers are really popular and Shield is really good. So obviously you'll see her there, but when it comes to two threat splashes, I don't know if it's because she's kind of boring and she doesn't hit hard. But people always seem to lean towards like Bullseye, who is great, or Toad, who I think is the one that I'm not going to say Widow's like better than Toad or anything. Toad's amazing, but Toad is like kind of a similar type, right? Where he's like an objective
Yeah.
positional
Yeah.
character,
Yeah.
and I think Widow is the second best positional two threat in the game. Like having a long moving two threat with stealth is crazy. Like if Nebula could hold objectives, she would be pretty amazing too. I mean, she's good offensively, but um, yeah, Widow's an all-star. I played her in not in every game, but in two of the three games. And then my other splash was Nova, which I've talked enough about. She's just super Mysterio and she's integral to the trap game. And I played her all three games, so she's amazing. So in round one, I played against I was up against X Force actually, which X Force is obviously not, the like top team by any means. A lot of people are not high in them at all. They're kind of widely considered one of the worst teams. But my opponent, his name is Carl. I know he listens to the podcast, so shout out to Carl. He's a really cool guy. He gave me an actual run for my money in this game. We ended up on Spider Infected and Deadly Meteors, and I believe he had Prio. I ran Green Goblin, Black Widow, Cassandra Nova, Lizard, and Craven the Hunter on this game. And the first two rounds, it was just like one of those games where it's just nothing is going your way. I just couldn't flip those stupid meteors. Um, I think on round two, like Green Goblin gets blown up by Honey Badger in like a single activation, and then um like Cable walks up to Cassandra Nova, she fails her tricks and traps, and then Cable just like blows her away and dazes her. And like just things are just going so like Black Widow gets exploded by Domino, and I'm losing like 10-5 after round 2, and I'm like, "Holy crap, am I gonna lose this game?" But I quickly kinda got things back together. Widow started, doing like she started surviving, which because she was in martial artist range, so she's cutting blanks and rolling 3 defense dice and surviving the way she should. And
Hmm.
Nova kind of gets into a better position and starts causing problems. And it, it, I eventually was able to swing the score back because that's kind of the nature of Deadly Meteors is you can fall behind early on, like pretty hard, and kind of make a very quick comeback. I think the biggest moment at the end of the game was Craven gets up in Cable's face and one shots him with a kukri strike. And at that moment, we kind of both knew that it was pretty much wrapped up. And I ended up winning 17-12. So by no means an easy game. Very difficult. Kind of like I mean, by the last round, I think I'd wrapped it up. So I don't want to say like down to the wire, but it was a very tough matchup
Hmm.
for me. And then in round 2, I got paired into, Asgard, and, this was being run by Tristan. I don't know if Tristan listens, but shout out if he does. Tristan is our local, like, Asgard, expert here in Rochester. He actually won the last tournament in our city, the one that I TO'd that I think we talked about a few episodes ago. Um, Asgard, or Tristan is a very competent Asgard player. Ben, you've played against Tristan a lot of times. He's honed that affiliation pretty well.
Yeah, yes.
Um, and he kinda came into this tournament as, like, our reigning champ in Rochester. So, I was definitely, I came into it taking it super seriously, and I was, he did have Malekith, on his roster, but we ended up drawing yet again. I got for the second time this day, spider infected and deadly meteors. So, right off the bat, he knew he didn't wanna take Malekith, and I kind of expected the same thing because playing at 17 with Thor and Malekith, you've got that's 12 points right there. And the rest of his list just was he doesn't have a two threat. So unless he's going 3 wide, he's playing unaffiliated. And I didn't think he wanted to do that. If he went 3 wide, I was totally fine with it on this layout. And if he went unaffiliated, I'm obviously more than fine with that. So I played the exact same list as I played the first game. I just felt like they were really good. I didn't want to use Mysterio or anything on Deadly Meteors. Just didn't feel comfortable. So I rocked Craven again and my standard guys. And I will say both games I set up sinister traps in the middle. Um, because I didn't have prio and I didn't want to I wanted to make them work for it a little bit. Um and this game I think I just like took an early lead and kind of held on to it. I was able to do put some early damage into Angela with Green Goblin, and Goblin was kind of giving her problems for the first couple of rounds. I think he ended up dazing around round 2. Um, Cassandra Nova was like single-handedly trolling Thor and Loki the entire game. At one point, she used mental domination to have Thor walk over and punch Loki in the face and daze him,
Oh, that's
which was
awesome.
like the most thematic thing possible.
Yeah, really.
Um, and Thor just could not get in on Nova. He would charge her, and she would either tricks and traps away, or she'd weather that 6 dice strike, and then he'd try to throw something at her, and she would use her 2 power superpower that is essentially brace for impact. And I probably used that ability like 5 times that game. And then he finally got to throw lizard at Nova when I didn't have 2 power for that ability, so I just spent 1 power for brace for impact. And Nova was just like indestructible for a little while. And then on the other side, Craven and Widow teamed up again to make Valkyrie extremely sad. I mean, it was funny because Valkyrie is this 3 threat attrition piece that is just kind of like a ball of fire that runs around and kills things. But she is all physical and she's pretty much just range 2 or 3. I think only range 2 off the top of my head. Does Valkyrie is her spender range 3?
I think
I
it's
don't. I think it's all 2. I'm checking it now.
yeah,
Yeah, she's
it's
only range 2, and she's only physical, which means I put her up against Widow with obviously Craven nearby, and Widow is getting 3 dice counting blanks every time Valkyrie attacks her. So, and they were kind of in an area where there wasn't anything like spicy to throw at Widow. So it was just funny watching this like 2 threat just like take the brunt of Valkyrie attacks for like 3 straight rounds and basically come out unscathed. And Craven was giving her a ton of trouble in the meantime, and the two of them were making sure that I held that meteor and kind of just never let up the lead. And I ended up winning 18-5. Tristan played it well, I think. It was a it was not despite the score, it was not an easy game, and it was one that I had to think a lot about going into and throughout. I think the crisis setup ultimately favored me. Like I said, we both kind of knew that Malekith was not going to be an option for him without going um, 3 wide, which would have been terrible on Spider Infected and Meteors. I think the highlight of this game was Valkyrie on turn 2. She was holding a Spider Infected, and he had put her just like barely too close to the Sinister Traps, and she rolled the hit or something, that I could move her short, and I moved her right onto my Sinister Traps, and it was just like ping pong all over the place, which you don't get to do that too often, so that was fun.
So trolly.
Yeah. That was a pretty good showcase, I think, of the spider foes. At one point, Angela ran over to throw a size 3 at Green Goblin, and Green Goblin trick or treated to blow up the size 3 on her face. That
Nice.
was really funny. It was a very, trap foes game, even though I didn't have Mysterio in the list on this particular match. So yeah, so I was 2-0, and Ben was 2-0, and we faced off in round 3, and that's kind of how we got here.
The stars aligned.
Yeah, we were both really hoping that it would be us in the finals.
Mhm.
We were kind of fortunate that the other two 3-0 players on round 2 tied
So
14-14.
yeah, so the thing with that was they weren't 3-0. They
Or 1 0.
yeah, Andrew P and Sean Perry both that day wound up going 2-0-1 because they were paired up against each other round 2, in which they did tie 14-14. So
Yeah.
that was a pretty cool thing to see. And then Andrew P and Sean Perry wound up coming in second and third respectively on the day.
Because of
Yeah.
that. Don't even. I don't even want to talk about it.
So yeah, and they're both great players too. So I mean, it was weird that there was 2 other players that didn't lose games, but they had the ties, so they finished second and third. Andrew's a great Web Warriors player. He's actually the last tournament in Rochester. He also went 2 wins and a tie, so he's gone like 6 tournament games now
Oh, so
without
he's
losing a game.
cursed.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could call it that, but also he hasn't lost in 6 games in the tournament, so
That's
that's pretty
true.
good. And there's Sean, who is if you're a command point person, listener, you've probably heard Sean's voice in the past, depending on
Yeah,
how long.
he's our resident Grey Knights and Tyranids expert.
Yeah, and Sean has gotten into MCP over the last couple months, and he has like really picked it up like super fast. He's actually not lost a game to anybody but me so far, and he keeps reminding me of that. And he's just been like a menace at our local store, just like crushing people with. He was essentially running like the Morgan Reed Avengers list. I
Yeah.
think he straight copied it actually, and he was talking about that.
Well, and shout out to Andrew. Andrew beat me going for top table in Syracuse when his Web Warriors beat my Black Order. Goofing around and taking Black Order.
Yeah, he's a good player.
Yeah,
He's really
he's got,
honed those Web Warriors.
yeah, he's gotten really good. I can't do it. I can't figure out Web Warriors.
Yeah, they're tricky. But yeah, it was us in the finals, Ben.
Yeah, do you want to start talking about it? Or you want my tiers first? What
Well, why don't we why don't we start with the tiers because I've been talking for a while.
Yeah,
You can talk about like how like what our crisis setup and stuff was.
yeah. So we drew into. I really needed to win priority, and uh, it was one of those things that I recognized that if I didn't win priority, things were gonna kind of get a little awkward. Of course, I didn't win priority, uh, and Shane took. I think you took your secures, right? I think.
Yeah, because I really liked your extracts.
Yeah, you really you look really liked your or my extracts because I think we were almost the same but one or
Yeah,
something
I
like
had
that.
Scrawl,
Yeah,
but
yeah. You both. Yeah, I think that was what our decision was. We had scroll and so we ended up drawing cube and intrusions, and we both kind of sat there like, you know, I don't want to play 17. Shane had only been playing 17 at that point, so I made the risky decision of going 19. Looking back, I regret that decision. I should have just played 17. Uh, but I ended up taking my 14 Hydra squad, which was Red Skull, Strucker, Zola, and Zemo. Um, and I was really debating. We had played Friday. We had did a warm up game on Friday with the same rosters, and we played 19. And I took,
no, it was 20
or
because
was it?
it
Was it
was
20?
20 on on Friday. It was 20 because I was able to play Nova and ASM that game.
Oh yeah. What did I play? Oh, because I played Loki Bob. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yes.
So my decision at 19 was Taskmaster and Bob or Modoc. And I had just played Modoc. Modoc was playing super well. Modoc can do a lot of fun stuff, and he can turn off a lot of Shane's shenanigans. So I said, okay, I just need him to not do one thing that I taught him a while ago how to do really, really well. And he's one of those few people in my life who listens to me, which is, uh, but yeah. So I can't remember. Do you remember everyone you took?
Yeah, so I was the first 2 rounds I had taken that same list that I mentioned earlier. The cool part about that was that I got to play Craven 2 out of 3 games. The
Hmm.
3rd round though, we were playing at 19 like Ben said, so I ended up taking Green Goblin, Cassandra Nova again, Lizard again. Lizard and Nova were the only mainstays every game other than Goblin. Um, and then I took Mysterio, and then because we were at 19, I was able to throw Venom in there as well.
Well,
Mysterio was acceptable this game because I wasn't playing on a pay to flip, and Spider Infected wasn't on the board. So like I'm normally okay with just one of those things with Mysterio, but both of those things it's ugly. And Craven's just really good there. Whereas Intrusions, I really like Mysterio, and I like him with cubes too on the board. So now suddenly I can take Mysterio, and we have the extra points, so I get to take Venom. And I've kind of learned that I actually really like Venom against Hydra. For a little while, it was starting to feel like I can't really take Venom in as many matchups as I used to with some of the things running around, like some of the big characters like Malekith that I just think Venom suck against. Um, but against Hydra, there's really only like a handful of like big attacks that are
hmm.
not physical, and most of them are either not a lot of dice, so they don't hit very hard, or they're range 3.
Yeah.
And they still don't really hit particularly hard. So Venom can actually do a lot of damage there. Um, and I really enjoyed the opportunity to bring out Venom because I haven't gotten to do it lately. And Venom was amazing this game. Spoiler alert.
Yes. For
Um,
alert. Yeah.
and yeah, I didn't take traps this time. This is the only game of the day where I didn't take sinister traps, and I remember kind of wishing I did.
Hmm.
Because even though I had Prio and it was an F shape, Modoc sitting on the other side of the board meant I was really afraid to go into the middle and grab that cube. I don't know if you wanted me to go grab it or if you were worried I would go grab it, but I just had this like bad feeling that if I grabbed a cube, Modoc was gonna walk up, hit me with his stuff and like start moving me. Like I don't know. I was just like really worried about maybe I respected Modoc too much. Um that may very well be the case, but I didn't grab it. I went for a aggressive play on turn one where I had Lizard run across the board and grab one of yours near the one of the later activations,
Hmm.
just to try and keep parity because you ended up grabbing the middle.
Yes.
Um,
Yep.
and naturally, my lizard does what he does, and or he did what he does, and he died on turn one. Modoc pretty much just like exploded him, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And from that moment, I was pretty worried. Um, I was like s- not super comfortable after the first round. Um, I had a lizard that was just in no man's land that got dazed. I had like given you that cube right back, and you had set up really well on the other side with Strucker and Zola, and I was kind of nervous at that point. It was not a good start for me. I
Yeah.
don't know what your thought on that first round was.
Yeah. First round couldn't have gone more perfectly for me. I pretty much got everything that I wanted. I was hoping, the reason you take Modoc rather than Taskmaster and Bob um, was I was hoping for that middle extract grab so that I could, like I said, just yoink whoever that you were going to throw up to me and just remove models. Uh,
Mhm.
Zemo was able to double walk, get into Mysterio's face to threaten High Council. Um, you had two people within range 3 of Strucker on the right side as well. I think it was Goblin and Venom were able to be within that threat range of the Strucker poison, the poison fart that he does. So I had set up really well for High Council if things were going to kind of go my way. Um, and really, turn two wasn't terrible for me.
Yeah, I
Um,
was still worried at the end of turn 2. I'm kinda, like, blanking on what happened there, but I know I wasn't satisfied with the board state at the end of turn 2.
yeah, there was a weird. I don't remember exactly what ended up happening. I waited for Zemo. You had Prio going in turn two.
Mhm.
Um, you didn't jettison Lizard out of there right away, which I thought you were going to do. Um, and if I
I think I
remember
dazed
correctly,
Struck I dazed Drudskall
yeah, it was
with
because I
Venom.
I moved Red Skull up to that middle point, which I felt confident that you know, uh, 5 dice against 4 dice. Red Skull's got like 7 health on his front side. I felt pretty good with the Red Skull versus Venom matchup. Uh, but what was weird, and I don't remember exactly what I was thinking at the time, because you didn't run Lizard back. I was anticipating the throw Modoc and then double walk away with Lizard, and I was gonna basically set up the High Council turn two with Zemo basically destroying Mysterio, and then Strucker basically getting off. So I was really confident that the High Council was going to go off at some point during turn two. Um, but then you did. I think yeah. I
So
think
I remember what I did now.
yeah.
So I really didn't like the board state because of the things that you were talking about. So I was like, "I wanna kill Red Skull. I wanna daze him right now."
Yeah.
Because if I do that, then you are because I also had Goblin on the other side threatening your Zola and Strucker.
Hmm.
Um, and if I daze Red Skull, first of all, I get that cube from him, and it kind of puts you in a weird position where there's like another side of the board that I'm threatening,
Hmm.
and maybe you kill Lizard, but I had a little faith that Lizard could survive. I didn't think he was going to get one shot twice. It's really rare that it happens twice. In Mysterio, I thought Mysterio would live, but it's kind of a weird one. Um, but either way, I was like willing to punt one thing if I could daze Strucker or
Hmm.
sorry Red Skull and then maintain Prio going into next round where I could then KO Red Skull.
Right.
So Venom goes, he punches Red Skull in the face. You block like crazy, and I'm like, oh god, what the heck? And then I punch him again, and I do like 3 or 4 damage, and then I throw a tractor thing at him, and I do like
I think that's what
or
does it. Yeah, that's what
no, I
dazes.
didn't kill him with that. I almost kill him, and he's got 2 health left, and I do something that I never ever do because I was really worried at that point. I was like, "All right, I need, like, to take a risk." And I webline him in to Nova,
Oh
and I
yeah.
need and I need Nova to get 2 out of 4. I never go
I,
for 2 out of 4. I
I,
always
I
go for 1,
yeah, I
and
remember.
I hit
Yeah.
2. And in this one time, I hit 2.
Ugh.
and it dazes him, and I'm like, okay, just like that, I'm back in the game.
Ugh.
And that also gave Nova the ability to start walking up the board off of
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
psychic distraction, and now she's in the mix.
Yeah.
Um,
And I remember, I think my response to that, which was again like thinking about it too, like when you lose games like this, you spend, I had 3 hour car ride home too, so I was able to, really
yeah,
analyze everything. Um, I don't know why I didn't just punish Lizard. Um, but my response to you taking out Red Skull was to Days Goblin.
yes,
And looking back at that, it was such a bad idea because, like I said, Strucker and Zemo or Zola were in a really okay position to give each other rerolls and stuff like that. Um, and spoiler alert, Lizard really just he didn't, I think, win you the game, but he was able to bully Modoc the rest of the game because
yeah,
I didn't put him down. I didn't put him down, so effectively Modoc was staggered for the rest of the game.
yeah.
Uh,
Lizard throws Modoc and then runs away. He does that play,
yep, yep,
and then
every time.
every round after that, Lizard would run up and throw him, and then run back. Or
Yep,
at one point Nova walked him away, and
yeah.
he was always having to move and then attack.
Yeah,
Um,
it was great. It was something, listeners, if you want to deal with, you know, big base, slow moving models, that's what you do. You just don't throw them into things. You don't need to kill them. You don't need to give them power. You just throw them, chuck them into no man's land, and then go do something else. Which was something that we talked about last season in TTS of how to deal with a certain model that will go unnamed right now because we don't want to give people secrets.
oh yeah,
This unlock the code, but that's what you do. And um, but a dazed goblin. I think I dazed um, Venom toward the end of the round. So it was
you didn't
relatively.
daze him, but you put about a million conditions on him.
Oh yeah, it was something like that, where I was still able to score relatively high. I was up 3 points going into round three, uh, and then it just kind of fell apart. um, and I'll give credit where credit's due. Um, I was fully anticipating Shane to go for the Strucker days. Strucker had I think 2 cubes on him.
Yeah,
He had like 3 health. Um, there was a really neat opportunity that I kind of baited Shane and said, "Hey, why don't you try to take out Strucker? If you take him out, look, you're also killing this card. You can do it. Go do it. Do it, Shane. Do it." And Shane made an amazing play. Um, that when he did that, I mean, it really just shook up everything that I had been setting up, really for 2 rounds. And yeah, I'll let you talk about it. Like I said, it was just a
yeah. So it was like earlier I mentioned I wanted to set up. I wanted to try and maintain prio for round 3, which I did, so that way I could KO Red Skull top of round 3. And with my dazed goblin, instead of going for Strucker, so at this point Zola had moved into the middle with Red Skull and Venom. So I
Mhm.
have flipped goblin. He does a glider ram into Zola, who is already injured, and it just kills him. And then I have 2 big 6 dice attacks into Red Skull, who had because Red Skull at this point, at the top of the round, was a lot closer to Mysterio and Nova than he was to Goblin. You would switch to the 5 Mystic defense and 2 energy defense. So Red Skull or Goblin, cruises in, kills Zola, and then double explodes Red Skull with 2 6 dice attacks and just like melts him pretty much. Which I will say with the trap foes, if you're running like Goblin and Nova, they are really good against Red Skull. They are so good against Red Skull because Red Skull is always going to have either 2 Mystic defense or 2 energy defense. And you always have the answer on the board to like solving Red Skull and doing a ton of damage to him. And when you putting Red Skull in the middle, Ben, I on one flank I had Goblin and on the other flank I had Nova. So in whichever phase you chose, one of them was going to be able to kind of like pincer and kill him. And in this particular turn, it was Goblin. And flipped Goblin is extremely lethal when he has priority. Um, so he comes in, he dazes Zola, and he KOs Red Skull off the board. And suddenly the bad board state is no longer that bad for me. It's actually it pretty much swings into a position where I'm kind of heavily advantaged. And I think Modoc was still really far away. Like Strucker's still there alive, but all he can really do is like he has to move to attack Goblin, and he'd have to move off the point, and he's got 2 cubes, so he can't use the intrusion portal. So like the best thing he can do to do like offense is to move off of an objective and get like 1 builder into Goblin, I think. So it's like a really weird spot for Strucker. And on the other side, it's just like now that Red Skull's dead, High Council's offline, so I'm not super worried about Zemo like killing Mysterio or anything anymore. And I don't even think he ended up killing Mysterio because I popped Grand Illusion and did like nothing. um, but
Well, and you killed Occult Research too, which was,
yeah,
uh, I was ready to pop that off. Yeah, it was probably the best play of the game, um, and it was great. And so it put me, I think I was in the driver's seat, round 1, round 2, and then round 3 after that, I was playing off the back foot, really having to react to a lot of things that Shane was putting the pressure on, and I couldn't keep up. Just couldn't keep up. There was a couple of times where um, Strucker could have done, a thing or two, a couple missed opportunities, um, but at that point, it becomes really dicey, and it doesn't necessarily work in my favor. Venom refusing to die, was just like, okay. Um,
he did daze
you-
at one point, and I was happy that he dazed because before the daze, he had
like all the
shock,
deficiency.
hex, incinerate, stun all on him, and then he
Yeah,
dazed, and all that was gone.
yeah,
And then I think it was that round after where Strucker attacked him, and then Venom like so many snacks and like one shot Strucker, which
yeah.
pretty much that was like the ceiling thing. I think
It,
if I
it
remember
was
correctly.
it was the moment where if Strucker doesn't die there, Strucker has 4 cubes. He has 4 cubes. He grabs them and walks away.
Mhm.
Um, and then now I'm back in control because he can go sit on the far intrusion, scoring me 5 points, and you gotta have to deal with it somehow. Um, I missed a big sacrifice play off the so many snacks, um, which would have helped. I don't think it would have won me the game by any means because
Yeah,
you know
the
you
trouble with it, well, like obviously Strucker lives, but then
yes,
chances are Venom goes back to full health because I did do the
yeah, the
we are
heat
Venom,
one. Yeah,
yeah, and it healed him all the way back to full. So Strucker probably doesn't kill him there, but it's definitely still a game
yeah,
at that point.
yeah. And it was, and you kill Zola. The Zola dies,
Yeah,
in
Zola
that
dies for
exchange.
sure.
So I mean, it was a great game. It was awesome to have, you know, the Command Point podcast repping, at a top table. So I had a lot of fun, and but it's time to bring out the
The
Papa
Brotherhood.
Magneto. Yeah, bringing back out my boy Mags. Because like I said, one of the things I was talking to people there, I've been playing Brotherhood for, I mean, since they've been out, and easily, over 150, 200 games, with them. You want to mix it up,
Yeah.
so, um, because it's a lot. COVID let me play this game a lot, and if you couldn't tell, um, so uh, I was uh, I was glad to bring out Hydra. I was really surprised at how well I did, to be honest, with Hydra.
It was
But I
really
was,
cool to see you pilot like what is relatively like a newer affiliation,
yeah.
and have such success at this tournament with it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it was fun, and everybody was great. Ryan did a great job. His only problem was he ate pizza in front of me. Go,
Well, you guys had just come back from lunch, so I had figured
just had, just had some pizza in front of us, but it was
all
great. We had a
TOs are entitled to pizza.
That's true. That's true. But yeah, had a great time, and I'm looking forward to the next one, and like I said, the next big tournament, which is going to be in a month in Boston. So
Yeah, it was a good one. I was just really happy to bring my spider foes and get the 3-0, get the victory. Um, I've played the team a lot at this point, and kind of like to ring with what you're saying, and like you got to mix it up sometimes. I am approaching that point where I do feel like I need to mix it up because the you can only play one affiliation so many times before you kind of start yearning to venture out.
mm,
Um, Probably going to be Shield for me next. I need to get my Nick Fury built, and then I kind of want to pick up She Hulk as well, and just kind of start experimenting with that team a little bit more. And
Once I get Thanos built, you can borrow him for a Thanos copter.
oh yeah, we can't talk
yes,
about Thanos Copter yet. It's not the world's not ready for Thanos
yeah,
Copter.
They are
the, s-
not.
the secret tech of Thanos Copter.
But no, yeah, I mean it was winning a tournament with Spider Foes is I can even if it was or it was a 12-player tournament, which I think it's a good turnout for a local event. Um, it's good to get that off the ledger though. I can say I've won an event with Spider Foes.
Yeah,
I'll probably be taking them to Boston, which will idea being probably my last Foes event for a little while. I'll probably switch to Shield and just kind of see what I can do with them. But um, I did say Venom was my MVP that game, but like as we talked about it, it made me realize that I think Goblin was the MVP that game,
yeah, that's fair.
and that's pretty cool to think about because Goblin is. I don't want to say he has a bad reputation as a character, but some people kind of like treat it like Blade,
Hmm.
like where it's like this four threat tumor leader that's like not great. But I think Goblin is way better than that. Um, and I do have games once in a while where sometimes he's disappointing, but he can really pop off and just having that big attrition piece, and he's got a lot of health, at least on his healthy side. But on his injured side, he just becomes like premier attrition four threat
Hmm.
if you can use him before he dies. Um, so huge fan of Goblin. The only characters I ran all three games I said other than Goblin were Craven or not Craven, were Lizard and Cassandra Nova. And at this point, Nova I think speaks for herself on foes. She's just so it makes the game so much easier for me when when she's on the board. Maybe
Hmm.
it's just my play style, but I don't know. I think she's amazing. And then obviously Lizard is Lizard. Everybody knows how good he is. You can pretty much slot him in anywhere, and he can do a job.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah,
awesome. So I think now is a good spot for us to wrap up this episode. Once again, I want to thank everybody who came out to the tournament and made it such a fun event. It was awesome running it for you guys. Thank you, everybody, for listening and tuning in, especially to our supporters over on Patreon and to our YouTube channel members, I should say. Um, thanks, everybody, for watching and listening.
oh, and I believe Ben has one more shout out.
Yeah, one more shout out. Shout out to Neelan and Sean out in Chile. It's awesome. I was able to play just a real quick TTS League plug. Go play TTS League. It's awesome. I was able to play with Neelan this last week, who's from Chile, and yeah, give all shout out to Neelan and Simon. Sorry, Simon, one of his friends, and the whole Chilean MCP community. Keep building that community out in Chile. And yeah, awesome. You guys rock.
Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you again in the next one.